Apply Newton's method to f of x equals x to the 1/3 with x sub 0 equals 1 and calculate x sub 1, x sub 2, x sub 3, x sub 4. Find a formula for the absolute value of x sub n. What happens to the absolute value of x sub n as n go to infinity? First, we come up with the general formula for the Newton method for the particular function and the initial get x sub 1. Newton method states that x sub n plus 1 equals x sub n minus f of x sub n over f prime of x sub n. In this case, f of x equals x to the 1/3, so f prime of x equals 1/3 x to the negative 2/3. This means f of x sub n is x sub n to the 1/3 and f prime of x sub n is 1/3 x sub n to the negative 2/3. This is x sub n minus x sub n to the 1/3 over 1/3 x sub n to the negative 2/3. We then simplify this formula. X sub n minus x sub n to the 1/3 power divided by 1/3 is the same as multiplying the reciprocal of 1/3, which is 3, divided by x sub n to the negative power is the same as multiplying x sub n to the 2/3 positive power. So this is x sub n minus 3, x sub n 1/3 plus 2/3 is 3/3 or 1. Simplifying this, we have negative 2 x sub n. Using x sub 0 equals 1 as our starting point, we see that x sub 1 is negative 2 times x sub 0, but x sub 0 was given as 1, so this is negative 2 times 1 or negative 2. X sub 2 is negative 2 times x sub 1, but x sub 1, we just found it is negative 2, so x sub 2 is 4. X sub 3 is negative 2 times x sub 2, negative 2 times x sub 2 is 4, so x sub 3 is negative 8. X sub 4 is negative 2 times x sub 3, this is negative 2 times negative 8, which is positive 16. This is very bad because we end up with a sequence of numbers starting with 1, we get negative 2, and then 4, and then negative 8, and then 16, which is not a conversion sequence. These numbers, they are not approaching any finite number at all. If anything, they keep their magnitude or their absolute value keep increasing. In fact, we see that the absolute value of x sub n is 2 to the n power. For example, when n is 0, 2 to the 0 is 1. When n is 1, 2 to the 1 is 2. When n is 2, x sub 2, the absolute value of x sub 2 is 2 to the 2, which is 4. X sub 3 is 2 to the 3, which is 8. The absolute value of negative 8 is 8. If we take the limits of this x sub n as n go to infinity, 2 to the n go to infinity, which is not any finite number at all. So the limit doesn't exist. This means that this sequence does not converge. So we will not have a solution in this case.